Hi Math 2, this is Miss Van Vickel, and in this video, the fourth in the Unit 4 review series, we're going to factor x to the fourth, a fourth degree polynomial, using quadratic techniques. Notice I have an x to the fourth term here, and I have an x squared term here. There's no x to the third term, and there's no x to the first term. When I see that pattern, I know I can use quadratic techniques to factor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend my problem looks like this. And that's our familiar quadratic factoring problem. So what I'm going to be looking for if I factor this problem, and remember I'm just pretending that this is the problem that I'm doing for a moment. What I'm going to look for when I factor this is I'm going to look for factors of negative 12 that add up to positive 4. And I think that if I use 6 and negative 2, I'll end up with the right numbers. Let me make sure. If I multiply 6 times negative 2, I get negative 12. And if I add 6 and negative 2, I get positive 4. So that's what I want to do when I do what we call busting up B. So now I've turned my trinomial into a polynomial with 4 terms, and I'm going to factor the first term and the last by grouping. But when I put those parentheses around this last term, I have to switch that sign and make it positive. Now I'm going to look at the first set of parentheses, and I notice that an x is a GCF of this first set of parentheses, so I can factor it out. And I notice that negative 2 is a GCF here. And so I get a factorization that looks like this. And I notice that I have successfully factored my quadratic. But if I go back to the beginning, what I notice is this problem was asking me to factor a fourth degree polynomial. And I reduced the degrees of my x term right here, so now I have to bump them back up. So where I had an x, I would now have an x squared. Let's check this and make sure we actually factored appropriately and that we get back to our fourth degree polynomial. So if we're going to check it, we're going to remultiply. X squared times x squared is x to the fourth. X squared times 6 is 6x squared. Negative 2 times x squared is negative 2x squared, and negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. So let me show you my multiplication here. And that's the results when I multiply these two binomials. And if I combine like terms, I get x to the fourth plus 4x squared minus 12, which was our original problem. So it looks like this factorization is correct. And we've completely factored this fourth degree polynomial using our handy quadratic techniques.